removing motherboard or logic board from a Panasonic model FZ-G2 tough tablet. And these are some of the tools I will be using. I've already taken a few motherboards out, and it's a lot more complicated and labor intensive than the previous model, the FZ-G1. A lot more to take off, a lot more screws. So let's begin by removing everything from the bottom cover. Easy to remove, such as the battery and the 512 gigabyte SSD, which comes in a bit of a tray here. So I'll start by doing that. Battery, SSD. I've already taken out some of the screws here. There's 3 for the scanner. Another plastic cover. And the fan cover. Easy to get to. And pretty much everything, every screw that you see on this side has to be removed. I'll try to go as fast as I can. There's 3 screws that are off the frame. This one is the middle one. I put those aside in a separate place just to make sure that I put them back when I replace the motherboard. Some screws are a little smaller, so I use this little guy here. It's another metal cover. Gives you access to the actual motherboard. You can actually see the motherboard right here. It's pretty much this size. Now I'll proceed to remove the some of the plastic covers that are easy to peel off. Okay, bunch more here. And checking if I'm missing anything. Now, there's 3 screws, kind of tricky, under 1, 2, and 3 that are covered by pretty much a sticker. So you need to carefully remove this to have access to them. 1, some are tougher than others. and 3. That's pretty much it for now. I'm going to start working on each corner, removing 2 screws from each corner of the tablet. Come out nice and easy. Next one, this one has the actual EC outlet there, plug, and it has just the 1 screw. This one has, oh, here's another screw for it. And you will have to remove this piece as well. Once you remove this cover, you have access to remove this as well. We got 2 more corners. And number 4 corner. These screws are at an angle, so it's kind of tough to go in straight. One. A little more. All right, so 4 corners have been removed. And what you need to do now is work all 4 sides of the tablet, removing anything or any screw you can actually see. So I'll start with this side. There's one here. Okay. Now this would actually be easy to remove, but it's actually glued. This portion right here, you will have to remove very carefully because it's actually glued to the frame. As you unscrew some of these covers, things kind of start falling apart. You need to be careful with that. So as I said, this cover right here has the function buttons. And there's 2 screws, 1 and 2. That you have to remove first in order to get that cover off. So what I do, I use my little tool here to carefully put some pressure and release the glue, as you can see. So this piece is tricky just because of the glue. Now I have access to a few more screws from the frame. Which again I put in a different part of my table here. Okay, I'll continue to unscrew some of the stuff, some of the covers on the side. There's no way around this. You have to remove all the plastics in order for you to kind of split the unit in half and have access to the motherboard. One and 2. One more screw that now it's exposed to get this little guy out. And then this one here has a few little latches like these. Alright, so this side is pretty much done. The other side as well. No need to remove this. You can actually see the line of where the unit splits, and you can tell what can or has to be removed or stay in. Alright, so I'm going to start working on these guys right here. Left and right sides covers. They're a bit tricky. There's a screw right there. screw, smaller screw right here. This plastic cover right here needs to be peeled off. Have a couple more screws. These two screws will give you access. This assembly here needs to be removed, but not taken completely off. You can actually see the line where the unit splits. So this can stay, but you actually need to move it over a bit to have access to other screws. Same with this on the other side. There's a couple of screws here, and then there's a main frame screw at the bottom, behind this plastic piece. So you pretty much have to take that whole thing off. This assembly has to be removed. Some more screws here. That screw is kind of tricky. You have to kind of lift this plastic cover to get to it. So I'll try to, this side, left and right covers are very tricky. There's a few screws underneath that you need to get to in order for you to split the whole unit. This one doesn't, this one on the left doesn't have to be removed completely. It'll be hanging, but you still have to kind of play with it until you get it off completely. Got my little plastic tool here that oh, there you go. Forgot one screw. That would make it easy. Now it should come off completely. So when you flip it, you'll realize that you have 1, 2, 3 more frame screws. And this assembly here has to be removed as well, because you need to split. Here's the split right here, right about here underneath this assembly. So this has to carefully removed. Just checking for more screws. Here's another one on the other side. And it'll just kind of hang in there. Don't have to remove it completely. Just leave it there until you have access to, or have removed all the screws you need to split the unit. This one here, it's also very tough, this side, with the function 8 3-button here, and the USB ports right there. This side here is glued to the frame. Do not have to remove this piece. That piece right there. So this side is glued to the frame. All that comes off is this plastic piece. Checking to see if there's more screws. This is probably the toughest cover that needs to be removed somehow. As you can see, if you don't remove this cover, you'll never get to this screws underneath. Well, at least it's in one piece. Don't forget this little button that goes with that cover, and this little assembly. So now I'll get rid of the last screw here of the frame. And I don't see anything else that needs to be removed except for these two guys right here, 1 and 2. You will need one of these little hex heads or start. I had to go through a few to make sure it fit, and it's pretty tough to get them off. They're pretty tight in there. So just need to apply some pressure. That's one. And that's 2. Now you can start slowly opening up the laptop. You can see the bottom's already pretty much open. This little corner here has a screw that has to come off. It's a tiny little guy, but if you don't remove it, you won't be able to open it. One, and like so. So now you have access to that corner. It's open. It's open. So now I gotta make sure that I take this off, this assembly here, because there's a screw, a frame screw right underneath it, as I said. Carefully remove this latch with the spring. Make sure you keep that in the same place. And as you can see, we have two screws, one for the frame and one that this little guy is attached to. And carefully pull this guy out. Not an easy thing to do, but need to be careful. I'm a little off camera, but need to get, maybe this is what's stopping me from removing this piece. It's a tape, a piece of tape that has to be peeled off, and we might find another screw, not sure. No screw. So that tape has to be removed. All right, so I can feel that the whole bottom cover is pretty much off. Before you remove it, you need to do a couple of things. There's some ribbon tapes that, cables that you need to unplug, such as this one here, this one here. There's some tape. Okay, and we have this tape right here. Okay, and this unit has to come off. That's one cable. And you can actually see the board right there. That's the only cable holding the frame, the one I just removed. That right there, it's the only cable that on this side. So now I'm going to flip the unit. and try to remove this cable, and voila, this is a little guy holding the other side of the bottom cover. So now the bottom cover is off. This one, as I said, needs to stay in because it's glued. This guy stays here hanging for a bit. And now we have total access to the motherboard. All right, much easier. Instead of unscrewing with the tape, I'd rather take it off completely. Carefully so you don't pull any of the components. Okay, this guy here, going to remove it. Okay. And as you can see, there's some tape reinforcement here, and the whole card comes out. Remove the tape carefully. As I said, you don't want to pull any other components. More ribbon cables that come off. You just pull them out. They're not attached by any other method than this right here. Okay. These two pieces come off as well. Now I'll start from here, work my way around, carefully unplugging everything off the board. That's a fan. This is the LCD cable. Just put it to a side. And for me to get to these guys, I have to loosen up the board. So I'll start unscrewing the board off the unit, and this little tape needs to also be removed. Work your way around the board. And carefully lift it. There's one cable here that has a little tape that you just pull and unplug. Same with this one here. Okay, and then Move this around a bit. This cable right here, it's pretty tight. Find it easy if you just lift it from one side and kind of pull it up there. Okay, and I have one battery, the seamless battery that needs to be unplugged. And one. I have one more cable here. Another plug. And the last cable. Sorry. We got one more here. There you go. So you have one plug. One and two. Voila. Here's your motherboard. As I said, there's probably about 40 to 50 screws that need to be removed. I'm sure there's better ways of doing this, but I couldn't find anything online. So this is my third unit I disassemble to get to this little guy. Hope that helps.